So raise your hand if you've ever heard of attention getters before. Okay. So does anybody want to give me maybe like your definition of what an attention getter is?
Strong words.
Good. Anything else?
That get your attention. Something
Yeah,
that
something
gets you hooked onto what they're reading.
Mm-hmm.
Or nonfiction.
Yeah, good. All right.
Maybe all capitalized words.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Sue,
Yes.
do you have the clicker?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Alright, so the definition of attention getters, they're used at the very beginning of your essay. So it's something to get your readers really involved. You want to get them hooked onto your topic. You can get the context of your topic, so it kind of lets them know what you'll be talking about. And then it gets the reader interested in your topic.
Is that working? Did you go down? Did you go backwards?
Yeah. Okay.
If you pulled down on the side thing, it would make it go forward.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So why are they important? Why do we need to know about attention getters? So, attention getters probably keep your audience engaged throughout your introduction and throughout your essay. So, if you have a really interesting attention getter, then your audience will want to keep reading your essay and keep wanting to know about what your topic is. And then it introduces your topic maybe in a meaningful way. So raise your hand if you have a topic that you're passionate about or super interested in, and you have maybe a personal story about that topic. So you could add that as kind of a, it makes your topic maybe more meaningful using the attention getter that you use. So it also shows your personal interest on the topic. So because you guys are passionate about the topic and everything, then the reader will be interested in reading more about your topic. And then going with that, it just motivates the reader to get more engaged and want to know more. Okay, so there's 5 types of attention getters that we're going to go through today. Those are quotations or surprising fact, statistics, questions, anecdotes or stories, and guided imagery. Okay, so quotations and surprising facts. So a quote or a surprising fact, it can be powerful, it can draw the reader in. These kind of go with your signpost notes. So taking one of the big questions of what surprised you and putting that as one of your attention getters could be really good. You could also use a counter argument as your first surprising fact or quotation, and that could get the reader interested because they could get challenged by what you're saying, and then you could refute it and say, oh, well, this is what I think, and it can go into your introduction. It can have something to challenge the reader's thinking, and so if you're reading something and you're thinking, oh my gosh, like, what is this? You kind of want to go on, and it's a surprising fact. And then another thing could be a quote from an expert. So from the articles you've been reading, there has probably been some quotes from important people in the field or something that you've been reading about. So you could use one of those as your attention getter to get the readers involved. So yeah, going back to that, so thinking about your signpost notes and taking what surprised you and what challenged, changed, or confirmed what you already knew, kind of taking those points, and you can make a pretty good attention getter with those questions. Okay, so statistics. Statistics, you guys have also been doing these with your signpost notes. They fall under a surprising fact or quotation, but they have numbers attached to them. So a surprising fact that deals with numbers or percentages or something that's surprising to your readers. So as an example, if I had the topic of kids or schools need the arts in education, instead of having them cut the arts out of education, I could use low-income students who are highly engaged in the arts are more than twice as likely to graduate college than their peers with no arts as education. So this is an example of a statistic because it has more than twice, and it just is a really surprising fact. So by reading that, how many of you were surprised at that fact? Raise your hand. Okay. Henry, why were you surprised?
I guess I wouldn't be too surprised that arts are helpful to what you, but just that something as simple, I guess, as art is going to double your chances of graduating college.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he just said something that's really important, and I want to make sure everybody aligns their thinking towards it, right? We are, unfortunately, what we've given you as like a thing when we say surprise, you know, when we talk about being surprised, like what surprised you, we've done that with as a signpost like 3 different times, okay? And I kind of want to write beers and pros to the people that write it and tell them that they picked the wrong word when they said what surprised you, because I think you still to this day expect to be, when we say surprise, it's like you expect a clown with a chainsaw to come running in the door, right? Okay? And even though you know that's what we've said, hey, don't expect it to be like, oh, surprise, right? We've told you that, and we've kind of shared it over and over again. I still think when you guys have a teacher that says, well, what surprised you? You're like, we're talking about music and the arts, nothing surprising, right? You know what I mean? Who here feels that way? Like, even though you're resisting it, because we've asked you to, okay. So when we say surprise, Henry just pointed something out, right? He said, I'm not surprised. He said, but it was like interesting to you, or it was, I didn't expect that small of a thing could have that big of an impact, right? So when we say surprise, that's what we mean. What was the new information? What was the unexpected information? What was it that you saw that changed your knowledge of it a little bit? Thumbs up from everybody that understands what I'm saying. And you're all still marginally awake. Okay, I'm worried about Keegan and Marcus right now. Both of you guys would rather be on a couch, right? I'm guessing. Okay, all right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to point out because they've been stuck on that since September. So, yeah.
All right, so now we're going to talk about questions. So using a question can get your reader thinking about your topic. It gets them to want to know more, and especially using rhetorical questions. So don't use like yes or no questions if you're going to use a question for your attention getter. So an example would be, how did you feel if the marching band wasn't there to play the fight song at football games? And so it kind of gets you thinking about, what if the marching band wasn't there? Like, the fight song wouldn't be even in the game, and it would be kind of boring. So just kind of like getting you thinking about what your topic is could be a really interesting way. And so those are why questions are important. So anecdotes and stories, these can be really, really helpful because you can base it on your own experiences. So does anybody have a topic that they're using right now that is very like personal to you, or you've had like an experience with it at all? Okay, so if you have, then you could maybe create an anecdote or a story about this topic, and based on your own experiences with it. So the reader gets pulled into the story that you're telling, and you can make the topic a little more relatable. So, and avoiding making the story too long, because it could kind of distract your reader from your actual thesis later. So I came up with my own anecdote or story because I was in band and choir and the arts when I was in school. So I sat in the band room and looked around at all the friends I had made the past 4 years of high school. I reflected on the days when we woke up at the crack of dawn and played our hearts out on the football field, and then I thought, some people will never know this feeling of home. So it kind of gets you into, it gets you thinking, it gets you kind of feeling the emotions of your topic, and it can really help your audience kind of connect and relate to you. So guided imagery is the last topic that we're going to talk about. So it's kind of like an anecdote or story, but it's creating a picture for your audience to see. So it uses the 5 senses. It gets the reader to imagine being in the world of your topic. So an example could be, imagine stepping into the band room or the school auditorium. Instead of hearing the voices of the drama kids practicing the fall play or the choir singing for the concert, you hear silence, and you know that you'll never experience music in your school again. And so it can...
Oh, sorry. You guys remember the Scarlet Ibis?
Yeah.
How did they introduce that story?
Unscripted. They describe the characters and describe the setting.
You guys remember what they did with that? Do you remember anything about that story? Anybody? Okay. They kind of walked you into the front of this old, big, southern plantation style home, right? And they talked about the smells, because they talked about different flowers that smell. They talked about wildflowers. They talked about the front porch, okay? That's what she's doing here. And this is a really, guided imagery is a really powerful thing to start a piece of writing with, especially if you're trying to sway someone to your argument, right? To hit them right at the start with stuff that just transports them to your side of the argument right away, right? Whether you're a band kid or not, or whether you're a musical, a vocal or an instrumental, or a one of the kids that's involved with acting, if you walk into a high school auditorium, there is a distinct feel that you have when you walk into it, right? You guys have seen like the opening scene or one of the opening scenes of what's the high school,
High School
they sing,
Musical.
right? Right, okay, like they're all sitting around on the stage, right? And he walks in, he knows he's not supposed to be like, walks in and walks right back out. You guys remember the scene? Am I remembering that scene right?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's somebody that everybody thinks, oh, the girls hear his name, they think he's just this wonderful guy that sings all the time. What's The actor. Anyway,
Oh.
you could describe that like she was saying that, and I was thinking of like the stuck-up blonde girl that sings all the time. That is that her name, Sharpay? Right. Like I visualized her at the piano and the girl that's the composer at the piano.
Yeah.
Like when she was reading that, that's where my brain got taken to, right? And I'm like I don't think I walked into the high school auditorium much, but like I can picture it. Right, and I can sense it, and in my head I'm like, God, my high school experience wouldn't be the same if I wasn't going to see Eric Christian Olsen perform, right? Because that was one of our buddies. So, anyway, moving on. That's a powerful image. It took me back there. I'd be ready to read the rest of that paper.
Okay, so now we're gonna do a little activity. Have these worksheets that I'm gonna hand out to you, and I want you guys to brainstorm your own attention getters using the topic that you have. So, and then after about 5 minutes, I'm gonna have you guys share the best one with the people around you. And then you can keep these sheets and you can use them for your essays. So it just kind of gets you guys to like think about these attention getters and how they can be really powerful for your topic. So you're gonna take your topic that you have, so you can get your signpost notes out. You can use your articles that you're doing, and you can just brainstorm some attention getters.
I want to check a couple things. I'll try to get started. These are the kids that are here. If you decide to use this for response, but you might not need it. I'll put it up at the front. Okay, so using what your topic, you want to try to put a sample of an attention getter that you use in these categories, right? So, like for quotation or trying to track you, so one of the articles you've read, use that if you want to use in a statistic, use that. Hey, Alex. Alex. Okay, so now this first time, right? You can ask the guys around you how welcoming I am to deal with an issue more than once. Am I very open to that kind of stuff? No. Fix it. You gotta step out and do it. Okay. So guys, if you have any questions about what you're supposed to do, ask, but right now you should be working. Quiet, independent for now, and then you'll have some time. White, Austin. Cool. So.
I'm gonna give you guys about 30 seconds to kind of wrap up what you're kind of writing right now. And then I want you guys to get, just pair up with someone around you and just share, one of your attention getters and kind of get feedback on like, is this good? Do you want to read more? Kind of just like, see what they think.
Yeah. I'm just saying, you're gonna do something, right? You do all of it.
I'll read it.
Buy it, and then, yes, sir.
Sour.
Are
you laughing?
I don't know.
Which ones do you think are the best to get?
I want you to get a
Why?
and during that time you can say, are you sure
Well, one, I know you that's one of the reasons I think it's so powerful in the US, right? Oh, I didn't realize that right away. You think questions? Why do you think questions are powerful? Well, they force you to think, right? So like if I were to say, see, so right away you want to read.
They're not talking about that. They're talking about
How do you know?
The ones that I don't know. Probably questions that I dream or like, I don't know. I
So like for
feel like
specific.
it's hard to like see it, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Well, especially for better than you. They're really real powerful. Like you talk about something.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. When you do
61% of the world has been both sides, 18 to the right. And 6%
whatever side of it you're on, you're pretty passionate.
Yeah. So what you're saying
There's
is
no like, I'm halfway
So
there.
what you're telling me is I can get married, I can get fully drive by myself, I can go buy a house. I
Open-minded about
do all these drones, all
Still,
but I cannot.
yours,
Yes,
I feel like the numbers and
That's
statistics about
But I don't have it written down on my.
I know. Well, like, the other thing you can do is, do you like comparisons between,
No,
imagine
That's only something for me.
I mean, I don't know which direction.
When you're thinking it should be.
Yeah, because like I'm thinking, it depends on which way you're going. If you're doing like the wage gap, or are you doing like, I don't know what you're doing. But this is the issue with from a women's,
I'm talking about
if you were to say, comparing like, imagine if that was right? Like if United States was 16 years old,
And then also.
you drive, you're good to go, right? It doesn't matter if you're really, right? In some places, that's really good. And sometimes the law makes it not. And sometimes the cultural value, like the cultural stuff. Right?
All of you
From Egypt, right?
So,
But from a gender standpoint, when Egypt is
Yes, I am.
considered
I-
really liberal,
Shouldn't this be able to say what your body is for?
like
Why?
like in Iran, like there's very specific rules about what a woman can wear and dress.
Okay.
In Egypt, it's more open.
Yeah, there's like Muslims and non-Muslims.
Yeah.
Whoa. What does alcohol
But the-
do to the brain?
But the laws that
Yes, yes. I want to know if
right, not so much.
No, I'm asking you because I don't know.
There's a mix. So there's highly conservative, and they are, but that's kind of, they control that within their own religious circle, right? So like, I'm there, and I'm there with my wife, who's Catholic, right?
Oh, yes, it is.
The police aren't gonna take her away, right? She's not gonna get taken, right? Whereas in some countries, the law is even established, so when you can
There's no
draw,
question. I don't. You know why it makes you high though? Because of the dopamine.
it's and hers is a tough issue because like,
There's so many
she's
ways
like,
you can go with
she
it.
can go in like the wage gap that exists in the United States, and that's probably the easy way out. Or she could go in, you know, I look at one of your articles is like, the new feminist revolution in Iran.
Yeah.
More dopamine.
Have fun with that topic.
I know. I worked so hard to like dissect it. I just know it was annoying for when I'm like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, well, I told you, that's a good topic. You want to stick on after school, I'm in my room, so you picked a big topic, it's a good one. So,
What is the topic?
so,
Women's make. Pay? Equal pay?
Alright, so, does anybody want to share, one of their attention getters out loud with the class? Wow. Did anybody hear that?
Can you say it again?
Can you say it again a little louder?
900,000 children are getting abused almost every year.
Every year?
Every year.
Yeah, I was one of those.
Alright, so, taking that,
listen up, guys.
does that like shock you how many kids are getting abused every year? And so if you read that, like, if that was the first sentence of somebody's essay, would you want to read on?
Yes.
Yeah? Because you would just be, it's just super shocking. It's, really, it's sad and you probably just want to know more, right? Yeah. Alright, anybody else want to share? Yeah.
America's crime rate is dropping significantly, but our gun ownership rate is rising.
Alright. So, that could be a good one because, it just kind of like tells you like the difference between stuff. So it kind of like gets you like engaged, and just like, tries to, get the reader to kind of grab onto your topic. So it kind of gives that's a good example actually about like the context. So because he had like the differences between it, it's a very good way to kind of bring your topic and get context over it so that you kind of know what it's going to be about. Anybody else want to share at all? Yeah.
If the drinking age went down to 18, it would be good for the economy because more people could buy alcohol and stuff. And we could charge higher for it and then it would be good.
Cool. Okay, so that one's good because so he said that it's alcohol, the drinking age going down to 18 would help with the economy overall because what did you say? And
More people could buy it,
Okay,
and then people who sell it could put it up for more than people it would be high cost.
all right, so so getting that like context and getting the fact that you get more cause and demand and everything, that could get your readers really interested in your different like types of topics and even more ideas about how the drinking age, if it would change, how it would impact you. So it's just interesting to see like the different topics and kind of the different like the different opinions that of the different topics that you guys have. Yep, that's about it.
For the rest of class.
Yeah, maybe I think they can work on it. So. Actually, I might just do. We just want to do independent reading.
I would do the
Since we
independent
haven't
reading
done it.
because there's not time for them to get into a second discussion post.
Right.
So you guys can do your independent reading now. If you want to, if you would like to dive into more articles, you can.
We've done our-
If you have questions or need help with some of your article stuff, now would be a good time to ask some
a
of
lot of
them.
times we flip this
What?
way because
Nah, there's only 8 minutes. I'll give you
kids go to high school.
Nope.
So we do the 6th period. and some
What do you
kids
want?
go to the 2nd period.
What do you want?
And so if we flip it, have the 10 minutes and then read the last, they can read it easier. So.
Well, we have 10 minutes. Okay.
What are you going for? No, but like, what's your topic? What about it? Are you pro-life or pro-choice in your reading? Or are you? Because this is more of like, I would say this is great, but it makes me think more of like, there's not adequate health care for women.
I read an article that said.
So your argument's not abortion.
Rational.
Your argument, yeah, your argument is that there needs to be more. Well, no, you're because this is your argument. So she just bit, like she's like, dang it, I shouldn't have bit. But I said, women's health care needs to be expanded. Like accessible women's health care needs to be expanded. And it's just not there. So what you're saying here is that not because they wanted to, but because they didn't have a choice.
My brain.
That's a really great argument. I mean, and it goes away from, it goes away from that, it goes away from the 15 papers we're gonna get on abortion, right? You're actually talking about, hey, women's health care is an issue that needs more attention. No, she doesn't. Like, that argument's there, right? Like, accessible women's health care. There needs to be more accessible women's health care. Help me find a good.
Just say it the other way around, right? Women's health care needs to be more accessible.
Perfect.
How would you describe mine?
I'm still trying to figure out what you're going for. Like, what do you want to address? Like, global women's rights.
Sure.
So like, one of the articles she's reading right now, one of the articles she's reading right now is like the new.
Yeah, but what if you get raped?
Right. There's
Whoops.
3 seconds to abortion, race and sex.
Well, I mean, look at.
Well, but if you think about what's going to turn Iran, it's going to be the young people and it's going to be the women.
I searched up Middle East. It says women's rights.
Well, I mean, even look at, I mean, look at Afghanistan, the way Afghanistan used to be, the Taliban.
Yeah.
Marijuana is
And women did have comparable freedom comparably to what they have now. Much more.
So couldn't the world powers need to be more assertive in promoting women's rights around the world? There you go, that's it.
If you don't wanna believe
Yep. I mean, that's what she's
Well, it
talking
depends,
about.
yeah, it depends too, like what you want to do. Do you feel like, do you think that the US, that the United States even needs more pressure on other governments to allow?
So what do you, so it's a problem. What is your proposal to fix it? To have the UN, world organizations like the United Nations?
Nora's a baby killer.
What do you, how do you think it should
Then you're
happen?
still in school, are you gonna have a baby? You have to have a baby.
Like how do they make women?
If you want, like basically you want women to have equality all over the world, not just in the United States. Okay. So,
So hey,
Sarah, is it,
Sarah,
do you just expect?
your argument isn't abortion. Your argument is accessible women's
wherever they
healthcare.
are. Do you
Right?
think that
That's it.
governments that do allow
So that's what you should,
rights
that's like,
put pressure on
and you've already got articles for that.
For
Now,
instance,
access to abortion could or could
have
not
much
be a
more freedom
freedom.
in the United States.
But it might
than
just
in-
be, you know, do you think there'd be as many abortions if women felt like they had health care
Should the
before time?
should the two countries say something like,
Right.
you know what, we're not gonna buy your product.
Like if a woman knew,
We're
wow,
not
someone's
sell
gonna
to
take
you
care of the
unless
health
you
care
give
for my
women
child, I'm not
equal
gonna
rights.
go through with this abortion.
Should
That would limit the
countries
number
that
of
are
people
free
who want to
countries
abort.
say that to
There you go.
countries that have
When,
those
here's the thing,
regulations?
here's the thing.
Should it be something like
When-
the UN where all the
when people
countries come
feel
together?
like they can, like they're gonna be able to, they're gonna be employed,
Where is this?
They're gonna be
where do you see
safe.
the freedom coming from?
right? And they're gonna have what they need to provide. They're more
Think
likely
about
to
it. I'm gonna come back tomorrow and let's talk about
When
it.
people
because,
don't have a
because
job,
I think that that's gonna be kind of your entry
when they don't have a
into
job,
what you want
they
to
don't
argue.
have a way to provide, and they don't feel safe,
Somebody
They're like-
right now, the way the government's
Otherwise.
right?
the men in those governments
You
are
see what I
very
mean?
happy having
So you
power
see the
and
difference.
having women serve them.
And so
Right?
your argument could be
And-
when women feel like they have
and that's all
equitable
it is. So
and
how do we get
robust or
that?
like
Are we just trying to change their
strong
minds?
healthcare
They just say,
or
oh, we do
access
that
to
anymore?
healthcare,
Are we trying to put
then,
pressure on them to
like
change their
they
minds?
should have like it's they
Are
don't
we
have
telling
it,
women that they
right?
should rise up and fight
I mean,
for what they,
you know, like
for their own rights? So, like, what avenue do you want to pursue to try to get that to
think of all
happen?
of the like
Think about those. Think along those lines.
Think of the
then
problems
I think we
that
can give you a pretty strong thesis statement
that
of
billions
what
of
your
dollars
argument
take care of.
is. Okay.
Is that equitable for women? I don't know,
Sarah,
right?
so you're pro-choice.
She no, her argument. The argument that she's arriving at is accessible women's health care.
Oh, so you're not abortion anymore?
Not anymore.
Oh.
No,
What are you now?
which is great.
I'm not.
Accessible women's health care. Write it down. Accessible women's health care.
I can't spell, sorry. You want me to write it for you? I'll write it for you gladly.
But like, I think so. Like, one of the things that she needs to probably explore a little bit more is like,
Sarah, let's have
do
a
world
date.
organizations
I'm not having
more
I'm
involved?
gonna cry.
Why are you gonna cry?
That's what she said. She's gonna think about like how she wants to approach it. But I think that like
Hey,
I think that's what she's gonna think about. I told her to think about it as like, are you encouraging? Are you
Yes, but no.
encouraging
Except for
allow women to have freedom? Are
Yes,
you
the
encouraging women to speak up and fight for their own freedom? Are you encouraging
Yeah.
And the
free countries to pressure on them? Are you encouraging a world organization of countries to put pressure on single countries?
Oh my gosh, I'm playing. I don't know what to say.
What happened to
not gonna lie.
Hey, I don't blame you. I
But
drive
the
guys.
issue is, what's more
I don't want to get stuck in
intimidating
silver.
for foreign power?
You want me to say you have some?
No, you guys walk out.
Please,
It's so good. Like, look at how perfect that is.
Right.
Get it, get that.
Oh, yeah.
I really did.
You fix this, we got like 300,000
Yeah, because one problem with Thailand is that they don't do anything with the resolutions. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So,
So you understand what he wants to look into, yeah. Like what's gonna create more of a state, right? So we've been rising up in the country.
Talking about abortion.
Like in the United States, yeah, you can do that. You do that in a place like Iran or North Korea.
I just don't.
starts walking away.
You die.
Yeah, sorry.
You gotta think of that, right?
And
When you talk about,
You're like cold.
like, it's,
Cold
you
up
know, there's been arguing the same kind of argument. It's really easy to be a Christian in the United States, right? I mean, you could argue that, but like, it's not easy, but you can also say, at least nobody's gonna be educated.
Yes.
What's this?
You guys are laughing at us and geeking out about these topics. You guys have some good ones in here. You've got, hey, by the way, you've got a good topic.
Me?
Yeah,
Child abuse?
yeah.
Yeah.
You got a powerful one.
Yeah. Yes, I was a victim of child abuse.
And you can use some of it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's why I picked it.
Yep.
So.
Did you hear his topic?